Hello, friends, and welcome to a very special episode of the Happy Half Hour, brought to you by our friends at Deep Eddy. And this episode of the Happy Half Hour might turn into the Happy Hour. You never know, because guess who's here? Our friend, JJ Jansen. How you doing, sir?
I think that's like a double entendre where you're likely to have a swig and go for an hour. It's sort of both at the same time.
It's like I'm a writer and use words on purpose every now and then.
We would 100% get a little bit more honesty out of Darin if we got him
Absolutely.
a sip or two there.
I am nothing but honest in all things. So that is one of those things I've staked myself on. So
he texted me his Snowmageddon prep the other day. Take a wild guess as to what it was.
Deep Eddies.
And I think there was like a space heater in there, maybe.
Yeah,
that was about it.
And a case of Vienna sausage,
Oh,
maybe.
the Vienna sausage. I forgot about that one.
We survived the blizzard. We're here in the studio, and we got all kind of cool stuff to talk about. We want to do this episode before next week when a lot of us head to San Francisco for a lot of cool stuff. We got people in the Pro Bowl. T-Mac's up for awards. Luke Kuechly's up for an award you may have heard of. We'll get into all that a little bit later, but there's a football game coming up next weekend, too, and it involves a bunch of people we know.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks and the New England Patriots about to head out there and play a little football. And I wanted to bring you in primarily because you're the guy who's been with all the people and Sam Darnold, of course, and the Seattle Seahawks in this game. As someone who played with Sam, what's it like seeing him enjoy this success, be in this moment?
I don't know that there's a person on planet Earth that is not excited to see Sam in a Super Bowl. He's an awesome guy, a great teammate. He's been through a lot. He's still very young. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like it feels like this has been 20 years in the making. It's been 6.
Right.
That's crazy.
And he's a fantastic human being. He's a great player. Thrilled for him. It really feels like Seattle has sort of embraced him as their guy. It's the first time in his career he's really full arms around him, and look, he's playing really, really well. You know, everyone kept saying, "Well, can Sam win the big one?" He threw for 361. That team was fantastic on Sunday night, and excited to see him maybe go for a Super Bowl in 10 days.
Something like that, yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me watching Sam the last couple of weeks, I mean, I saw him here for 2 years when things were not as stable, when the situation was not quite what he's dealing with now in Seattle. And the thing that stands out to me about Sam is when you listen to the interviews, when you see the press conferences, he's exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's what made him so likable here was through a lot of chaos, coaching changes, quarterback changes, scheme changes. There was a lot going on simultaneously, right? He was here. He coexisted with Baker. He coexisted with Cam. He coexisted with I'm the man, now I'm not. Injuries. There's a lot of stuff. He got injured in both seasons, right? I think he hurt maybe his clavicle. He had like a hamstring or a calf issue in year 2. Like there was a lot going on, and yet he was just real steady, the same guy every day. And people kind of forget because there was a lot of turmoil. He went 8-9 in his 17 starts with the Panthers, in which our roster wasn't what it is now. There was a lot going on. And he's got a real steadying force. He's a little bit of aw shucks kind of guy. That's who he is personality wise, and I think it suits him really well. Again, you need to be a great leader to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. He is not as much rah as he is just stable, consistent, and he's tough as nails. Right? He's made some big throws. He's run the ball. He's taken some shots in the pocket. You know. That was kind of a big knock on him is he's taking too many shots in the pocket, getting sacked too much. But he's willing to stand in there and be tough, and that's what teams thrive on at the quarterback position, and he's done really well. And this isn't just this year. Like he was excellent last year, and this has been a couple years coming now.
Yeah, I think, and part of the reason I wanted to talk to you about this is because Sam seems so normal right now. And this is just baseline who Sam is, isn't it? I always said, I talked to him one time about being starstruck, and had he ever been starstruck, because he grew up in Los Angeles. He was in that USC program when Will Ferrell's hanging out in the locker room, doing all that kind of stuff. His grandfather, Dick Hammer, was the Marlboro Man, for God's sakes, and an Olympian, and played college sports. So he's grown up around celebrity. And I said, Sam, have you ever found yourself starstruck in any of these situations? And he just looked at me and he was like, Well, I mean, Luke Combs is here today. I was like, Sam, those things aren't necessarily the same. Luke's a big star now, but that was a couple years ago. And he just seems so level and so unbothered by whatever comes his way. And to be able to do that when it's good is admirable. But to be able to do that when it's bad that's just character right there.
Yeah, he's got a tremendous amount, and certainly his first, I guess it was 4 or 5 years in the league. I mean, there were some character building moments in there, right? The first throw he ever makes is on Monday Night Football. It's a pick six, and they win the game, right? Like, so there's been some highs, and there's probably been more lows, but it's been a lot more highs here over the last couple of years. But again, I think that speaks to in the NFL right now, like, we're asking so much of young players. And I brought up the fact that Sam's so young because he was drafted at 20 years old, right? There's, especially in today's NFL, like there's more kids coming out at 22, 23. And we just forget that there's a developmental process. And the development works best, not only with talented players, which Sam has always been, big, strong, athletics, big arm, the whole bit, but also the guys that are capable of handling the muck early in their career. And so much of what Sam went through with the Jets and even here in Carolina was really tough circumstances. And that breaks a lot of people. It would break the best of us. And Sam is unique in that he is very level-headed and he's very matter-of-fact and he loves football. And he doesn't have like a ton of these like outside interests where he wants to be a celebrity. He wants to play quarterback, hang out with his buds. And so he has the right stuff to handle all the muck. Now you have a couple years of success. There was no doubt that it wouldn't change him because he's been that way even through the worst of times.
Do you have a story about Sam along those lines? I mean, where you saw that levelness or where something went disastrously wrong and Sam was kind of the same dude?
Well, I mean, I've alluded to it, right? Like he's traded, we trade a second, a fourth, and a sixth to bring him in. He's the guy. We start 3-0 and things start to go a little bit sideways. And then he gets hurt in Atlanta. And 2 weeks later, Cam Newton's here. And Cam is Carolina's beloved child, right? And Cam has the Arizona Cardinal game. I'm back. Sam's on, I don't know if we put him on IR or not, but like Sam's hurt. I mean, he had a significant injury. And it probably felt like everything shifted on him. And I remember a couple weeks later, we went to dinner. It was near the end of the season, and the team was starting to shift back to Sam. But, there was a lot going on. And just Sam was sharing stories in the quarterback room, not only how level-headed Cam was and how adult Cam was in the room, because there was a lot of confusion over who was going to be the starting quarterback last couple weeks, those sorts of things. But Sam, it'd been very easy to be like, well, I'm out of here. I'm not under contract. I don't want them to pick up my fifth-year op, or they had picked it up. I want to be traded. He was very much like, I'll be back here next year, and we're going to have he was very matter-of-fact in the face of, I'm sure he probably felt like any athlete, man, they're trying to replace me, with a guy that the fans all love, and he was very matter-of-fact. Fast forward, he is the guy, boom, we're trading for Baker. And he's right back in that same scenario. He's in a quarterback competition with Baker. The tide starts to turn in favor of Baker. Then Sam gets hurt.
A lot of moving quarterbacks.
There's a lot of quarterbacks. PJ Walker was in there too. I think there was a few others. And then on the preseason 3, playing with like third and fourth stringer guys, like guys that aren't making the team. He gets hurt because 3 guys make a mistake on a play. He's running for his life. He gets hurt, and that's kind of the end of that opportunity to be the starter. Right. And he comes in the next day and he's the same guy. I'll be back in. I think it was like he had a 4 to 6 week injury. Yeah. And by the end of that season, he was the one leading us to that Steve Wilkes year. We're trying to get back in the playoffs, and he played really well, especially we had a really good game here versus Detroit. Yep. Had a big game in Tampa that we kind of lost on the defensive end. Sam played pretty well, and it's like he was the same guy the whole time through. So there's lots of those. The first time we ever met, he thought I was a coach or a trainer because we were doing COVID testing, and I came in jeans and a sweatshirt, and he hadn't really seen a whole lot of players wear jeans to practice. Yeah. He also hadn't played with a lot of 35-year-olds at the time. And so I think he asked, I think Will Greer was on the roster that time. He's like, who is that guy? And Will told me the story a couple years later.
Will should have made something up.
I don't know if, yeah. It was a weird time. We were all sitting in chairs 6 feet apart in the truck
COVID
bay.
trailer.
So those were different times, as everyone is well aware.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Dream.
speaking of charlatans, Will Greer, charlatan.
Yeah.
There is another charlatan in this game with Sam. Drake May, Patriots quarterback. Perhaps you've heard Drake May's from Charlotte, grew up a Panthers fan, and was at Super Bowl 50 in Santa Clara.
If you didn't hear it, you didn't watch the game on Sunday.
Or
You'll hear it in the next 10 days.
You will hear it in the next 10 days. I remember Jerome Bettis is from Detroit when the Steelers played in the Super Bowl. Up in Detroit, and when it's in his hometown, that story got beaten to death. I think Drake's going to get beaten to death, but great player, playing really well, found a good situation for him, but he's another guy, because he's got context here. It feels like we need to talk about him. Bless you.
Sorry, thank you.
We appreciate you using good hygiene. Always do the vampire cover up when you got to sneeze.
Dab.
But You ran into Drake. And it's kind of funny. We joke about, because you've been around here so long, so many people have seen you. But when Drake comes up to you after the preseason game the other year, he was like, what'd he do? Hello, Mr. Jansen. How are you, sir?
He came up to me, and it's actually been the last 2 years we've played up there in New England. But after his first preseason game, I sort of laughed because he came up, introduced himself, said he'd been a big fan. Because I'm sure in his – he's the number 3 pick in the draft, and I'm looking there, like, oh, there's their franchise quarterback. But I'm sure in his mind he went back to 10-year-old Drake, right? Like, this was a player that he, being me, like, he saw on the field. Like, I'm sure I felt larger than life to him.
Right.
Of course, he's the 3rd pick in the draft, and in some ways he feels larger than life to me, right? Like, that's kind of how those sorts of things go. And then we talked a little bit this year after we went up to New England. We've just, on the field, friends, stay in touch, although I did realize that the only other quarterback that's kind of been the case was Daniel Jones, and I had to get a jersey of Daniel Jones for my kids because they're Daniel Jones fans because he's from Charlotte and the whole bit. So the Drake May jersey may become a little bit harder to come by here, especially depending on how next week goes. But really, really sweet kid. He's obviously a grown man, but just a really good dude, excellent athlete, great player, and he has found it in New England, right? And it just feels like a good fit. They're using him really, really well, and I'm excited for him too. He's very young, right? I think he's 22.
22, 23.
Well, and I was going to ask you, you've had a lot of exposure to him tangentially over the years. Josh McCown, former Panthers quarterback, was once a teammate of yours, been an assistant coach here at a time when you were also playing. Josh coached him in high school. Yeah. And so you've kind of had exposure to him all along the way. What is it about, whether it's conversations you've had with Josh over the years or watching him and knowing a little bit about him, what is it that's allowed Drake to get to this point so quickly?
Well, I think you've got a humble leader. He's obviously a fantastic athlete. He's got a great arm. He's a tough kid. He's a multi-sport athlete, right? I think we get into a world in which everyone is trying to specialize. Now, I always have to say this, like, the best athletes can play 2 and 3 sports because they're the best athletes. But you look at Drake's game, not only is he an excellent thrower of the football, but he's very good in small spaces. He's got long speed. Just look at the final play of the game versus Denver, right? They're running a naked bootleg, and in the snow, he's got to outrun an edge player to the sideline. Like, he's a really good athlete, but there's some creativity to his game. He's got all these skills, and if you look back and you just see the way that he presents himself to his teammates, he's a very likable guy. He's a very engaged leader, and unfortunately, in the NFL, when you're the quarterback, you're immediately asked to be the leader. Not everyone is ready for that responsibility. His personality seems to be one that fits really well with guys, and I think his wife's doing him a lot of favors too, baking goods for the O-line. Like, if you're going to win any part of the offense over quickly, get the O-line on your side.
Cookies,
Those are the ones.
They get it, right? The Mays get it. And obviously, being the youngest of 4 and brothers that are playing at the highest of levels in college sports and his dad with his track record, nothing is probably showing up that he isn't prepared for. They haven't talked about. He's not a real big eyes. They know what big time sports looks like, and so you can see that now. He gets in a room with Vrabel, who's a big personality. Josh McDaniels is a big personality. he can handle all that because that's not scary to him the way maybe someone that's not experienced this in their family may have.
It's cool, too, because they're both such a testament to what a quarterback situation can look like and how a team can help them. Because, like you said, Sam comes into just a couple of situations that were not conducive to good play for anybody, but especially for a quarterback. And it really took getting to a team that was going to make sure to take care of him. And then the same happens with Drake, who's so young. He's only in his second year. But a lot of times he would have gotten written off after that rookie season just because they won, 4 games last year?
Yeah.
But these are two teams. I saw this the other day. These were the 2 of the top 4 teams that spent the most in free agency this past year. And they went out and drafted a tackle that can come in and protect him, talking about the Patriots. So it's 2 teams that made sure to put their quarterback in advantageous situations, good defenses, things like that. And it's a testament to what a guy can do when you surround and protect him and build around him.
Yeah.
Well,
And in 2 different points of their timeline, which is interesting too.
And in the case of Drake, right, he showed a lot last year. They didn't have a very good roster. The coaching staff was, I argue, subpar from the jump, and yet he was performing well. They win 4 games, but
he went to the Pro Bowl.
He was individually playing well. So what do? They go out and get experienced head coach Mike Vrabel. Josh McDaniels is one of the best play callers in the league. So now you get like a really good CEO head coach, game day manage the game, and a play caller. It's hard to do all that, especially in one season. And then you go out, you draft a left tackle, you get Stephon Diggs, you add to the running back room, and now you're starting to put some environments around him. You know, Matt Collins has been a really important add on to that team. Like, you're finding big guys over the middle. You got your guy on the outside like Diggs who can just win at a moment's notice, and they know how they want to play in New England, right? It's well suited for a snowstorm. Yeah. It's well suited for a rainstorm the week before. We're going to run, we're going to protect the ball, play good defense, and manage the situations well. But you need a mature quarterback to handle that. I think the thing that I find most interesting about Drake May is how mature he is for a young player, right? He's very mature to be 23 and to be in this environment. And the cool part is, you know, people look at Bo Nix, who's in his second year, and go, oh, he's pretty mature. But he's also 26 years old. He's developed because he's had a few more years in college. Drake being so young and being put into these environments is really, really impressive. And they've got a great coaching staff. They've built a really strong team around him. Elliott Wolf, the GM there, who I knew from my time in Green Bay. They know how to build teams in Green Bay. Those GMs go places. Like, there's a really good infrastructure. But
John Schneider.
John Schneider in Seattle. He was the one that traded me here.
Green Bay, yeah.
He traded me, actually. I think Ted Thompson signed the contract, but John Schneider did the work. But
Thanks, Schneid.
Building those teams, it's also the reason Mike Vrabel wants to go to New England is in large part because of Drake May, right? That's why Josh McDaniels. That's why those guys are going there. So it's a two-sided sword, but they've both teams have done really well. But New England's built a really strong roster.
Yeah, they really have. And to me, this is a fascinating game because these two are kind of coming at it in similar ways. They're not identical. They're not identically constructed, but they do business in kind of similar ways. I think I was telling somebody earlier, I said, if you believe that a team with Sam Darnold on it has to be Sam-proofed, which I no longer believe, but even if you hold that belief, they've done that.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got dudes all over that defense. Sure. You saw it coming down the stretch.
Close, yeah.
We all saw it coming down the stretch this season. But when you look at this game and the way you kind of break down games, you know, I know you work with Greg and you think a lot about the prep and a lot of the situational stuff. Where do you see kind of the differences between these two teams going into next week?
Well, I would have said going into the playoffs, Seattle was a defensive team that was looking for explosive plays in the passing game from Sam. Mm-hmm. And I would have said New England was the offensive team that defense needed to catch up. I actually think New England's defense is the best part about their team right now. Now, they've played in some bad weather, right? So that's always a little tricky. But their defense is playing really good football.
Right.
I don't know that they've played an offense that will be as proficient as Seattle is, especially with Smith and Jigba, Rashid Shaheed, that running game. Like, Kenneth Walker's real. Mm-hmm. But, you know, they handled Stroud to the point where, you know, people in Houston are a little upset about how their quarterback finished the season. They handled a road game in the snow and the blizzard. They knew how to manage that game really well. Now, I would imagine we go to San Francisco And at least 10 years ago when we went, like the weather in San Francisco, Santa Clara is not
to be
terrible.
perfect, yeah.
It's supposed to be beautiful, right? Like that's why you go in February. So I wouldn't imagine we'll have one of those games. But where I see New England needing to improve is they've got to figure out a way in the passing game to improve over the playoffs. They have not been great. The circumstances have been different, but they have not been great. And Seattle, on the other hand, is kind of finding their offensive stride here the last few weeks. They got off to a really fast start. They were running the ball and throwing bombs. It kind of, when we played them, their offense was beginning to struggle again. Mm-hmm. It's taken back off.
Yeah.
And I tend to think that offenses, if the quarterback plays well, you can beat any defense. But Seattle right now feels like they got the best combination of offense and defense. I think these are two evenly matched teams. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't pay much attention to like how the playoff games are going. Like when we went 10 years ago, we scored all kinds of points, and then you get to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl, and it's just a different game. Mm-hmm. I think the edge goes to New England, and here's why. It's a bunch of players that have not played in the Super Bowl, but Vrabel's been with New England. Mm-hmm. Josh McDaniels has been with New England. The Super Bowl is a different sport. You're not riding the highs and lows of the fans. It's a very corporate event. Mm-hmm. There's long breaks. You have the 30-minute halftime, but everything just feels dull. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be able to manage those situations really well to get to the fourth quarter where it's normal football. So which teams have the best plan to manage the 2-week lead up? And because New England's been so long and because the guys leading the charge for that staff have done it in that organization, they'll have a really good plan. Now, I don't want to throw shade at Mike McDonald or Clint Kubiak or anybody there. John Schneider certainly went twice as general manager of the Seahawks, but I think the preparation to going is so valuable, and you've got one team that's done it and one team that hasn't, albeit new players.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point because
Thank you.
think of every now and then you have one. Because you think about the playoffs being so heightened at in every facet. And I mean, we saw it here a couple of weeks ago, just how intense every moment felt. But for the Super Bowl to kind of almost be the antithesis of that, like saying it's dull.
It feels like a preseason game.
Yeah.
It's weird. It feels like a preseason game. The energy and vibe in the stadium is very mellow. Like when you go on the road, like if you were New England, like you get an energy boost from shutting the home team up.
Shutting up Denver. Yeah.
It gets real quiet. You're like, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. There isn't any of that. There's just sort of a dull roar the whole game.
Yeah.
And so it just, again, we played in that stadium. It's a very weird feeling. So you got to be able to manage those emotions. Mm-hmm. And then again, you got to also manage the lead up because you're going to spend way more energy in the week leading up to it. Handling tickets, handling interview. There's a lot of stuff you don't want to do. And how do teams handle their players in a way that when they show up on Sunday, they're energized and invigorated to play and not like, I'm just glad this is over. Because I think there's a little bit of that if you've never been before of, this has been a long week. And like you got to get to the game. And the last thing you do in San Francisco is the most important.
Right. It's a long week. This is a long podcast. This is usually when Cassidy and I are wrapping things up,
Sure.
Thanking our sponsors, saying hi to Chuck the Duck, all those kinds of things. But since we've got special guest JJ Jansen, we're just going to keep going. This is a supersized edition of the Happy Half Hour, brought to you by our friends at Deep Eddy Vodka.
We need a second bottle of Deep Eddy for the second half.
Bring it in.
We may need another round podcast, Matt. Let's do this.
Snow Vienna sausages.
You're going to be out there on the road next week. Sure. You've got media obligations. You're going to be doing some stuff, creating content left and right out there. What are you going to be doing in San Francisco?
Hosting my radio show that we do on SiriusXM, NFL Radio, Players Point. Myself, Alec Ingold, sometimes Allen Robinson. We'll do like a weekend review.
Allen Robinson?
Receiver Allen Robinson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cool. Receiver Allen. I clearly tells that Cassidy has not tuned in. Tuesdays, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you. I will redo my Sirius subscription just for you.
There you
I'm going to send you the bill.
I actually think we're going to be on Wednesday this week. There's some Pro Bowl coverage that's taking place. And then there's a bunch of old friends that'll be out there, hop on their shows and continue to stretch my media muscles. And maybe we'll do a few things for the Panthers. We certainly hope that Luke will be entering
Hall of Fame?
Well, yes, the Hall of Fame. I was trying to think how to say it now that the Bill Belichick news just came out. I was going to say,
Wait,
hallowed ground.
Wait, Bill Belichick, what are you talking about? I have no concept of what you mean.
No, only some of us vote for
you know what's funny?
The Pro Bowl, or the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry.
I set a time limit for social media apps on my phone.
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
I needed the mental break, and it's made a difference. So I walk in this morning, and everybody's talking about Bill Belichick. Matt's bringing it up, and I have no concept of what anyone is talking about. I had no idea. It was kind of nice.
Well, I'm sure everyone listening to this will know full well what has happened.
Yeah, and fun story, and this is going to seal without any shadow of a doubt that I am, in fact, older than JJ Jansen. Last night, I was getting ready to leave the house. JJ's like, what's with the stray?
Catching a stray. Holy smokes.
Oh, wait, didn't you just have a birthday?
I did.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I noticed there wasn't a cake here.
The big 4-0. Well, we got you deep, Eddie.
There you go.
Last night around 5:30, I'm getting ready to go out. Wife and I play bridge with some friends of
Okay.
ours. Shout out to the Cheeks.
That's how you know he's older than
we
you.
get together.
No doubt.
We get together.
The only person I know that plays bridge is Warren Buffett. So you're in good company, but he is a little bit older.
I'll take that. But we were going to play bridge with our friends, and my phone starts blowing up. And I'm like, oh, what happened? And I look at my computer, and I see that ESPN has reported that Bill Belichick is in fact not going to be among the people named to the Hall of Fame later next week. And I think that was a surprise to a lot of people. I am going to use this as my 3-minute pulpit.
I'm timing you.
I get this very seldom in my life, and I just...
Except every week on the Happy Half Hour.
Well, the thing I want to do, it's kind of the way today has gone. It's become an inflamed situation. Everybody's very passionate about it. Of course, Bill Belichick's one of the 3-4 best coaches ever to participate in the sport. How could he not be? One of the unfortunate parts about the way this has been discussed is this is not a personality story. This is a process story. And process stories are boring, and process stories take a long time to tell and explain, and nobody wants it. Everybody wants a tweet. Everybody wants a bumper sticker to explain what's going on, and you can't put this one on a bumper sticker because 2 years ago the Hall of Fame changed their rules. They took the seniors candidates, the contributor candidates, and the coaches and put them in one pool. So those 5 guys go into a pool. We discuss them in our meeting, and you get to vote for 3. If you get 80% of the votes, you're a Hall of Famer. You are a person who knows math. 50 times 3, 150, 80%, 40 votes.
120.
If 3 guys get 40 votes, how many did the other 2 get?
15 on average.
15 each. So, and the point is not that none of these guys deserve 40. The point is none of these guys, if you've reached this point in the deliberations, deserve 15. So what happens is you get votes split. Last year, when we were in this same situation, we had contributor Ralph Hay, who was, the founder of the league and is the reason the Hall of Fame's in Canton, because the league was founded in his Hupmobile dealership in Canton, of course. JJ used to drive a Hupmobile in college when he was at Notre Dame. But Ralph Hay did not make the Hall of Fame. Mike Holmgren did not make the Hall of Fame. You got one person out of that group of 5 last year, and it was Sterling Sharp, who was the seniors committee wide receiver, who came out of the group of 3 seniors, but only one of the 5 made it in, because the system is designed to keep people out rather than to include more people. There were some complaints a few years ago that too many people were getting in. The Hall reacted by changing these rules, making things tighter, and you saw it last year with Luke. I mean, we were used to getting 5 modern candidates a year into the Hall of Fame, and it made for a nice flow. You were turning over the finalist group every year. You were seeing new names being discussed. New people would come to the fore. But last year, when you only get 3 guys through and Luke was left on the outside, I mean, to me, I believe that Luke was the best player on last year's ballot. I believe that, and that's nothing against Jared Allen, Eric Allen, and Antonio Gates, who were the 3 modern candidates last year. But Luke had a better resume than any of the 3 of those guys for reasons I can talk about all day long. And the same thing happened this year, where you may not have voted for the best candidate because people vote different ways. I truly believe that there are people who wanted to get a senior in or wanted to get more than one person in who probably assumed everybody's voting for Bill. so I won't vote for Bill. And I wonder if, and this can't be proven because they do not want us to reveal our votes, and they're not going to reveal the final results of this thing. But I suspect that because of that splitting, because of that, people trying to gerrymander the results a little bit, an obvious thing got left out, much in the same way it did last year with Luke. And again, I will tell you, if the Hall of Fame calls me right now and says, hey, feel free to share your vote with whoever you want to share it with, I'll be first in line. I love transparency. Nothing disinfects like sunshine. I love it the most. But they told me not to. So listen, I'm happy to show my work. It's right here. I trust JJ. I trust Kassidy. They are
I'll tell y'all what it is for $50.
They are in my circle of trust. It better be more than 50.
I was going to say, you'd sell out for $50 bucks?
That's pretty sorry. I'd be happy to share my votes. In a perfect world, I would be completely transparent because I'm not ashamed of who I voted for, and I'm not ashamed of the process we go through to get to this point. I'm just afraid that it's taken something away from the rest of the class because all this hubbub right now. My sense is we'll get to Santa Clara next week, we'll get to San Francisco, and we'll be talking about other stuff. And by the time next Thursday, when honors happens and the Hall of Fame class is revealed, that this will kind of go about its path. But, I don't think anybody disputes the fact that Bill Belichick's one of the greatest coaches to ever play the game or coach the game.
Yeah, and I think the biggest frustration for fans is that at the end of the day, you'd want that the Hall of Fame puts in the most deserving candidates first. There's always an element of, well, is that person deserving to be a first balloter or not? We talked about this last year with Luke. Luke has all the qualifications of being a Hall of Famer, and he did it in 8 years. Right. You didn't have to extrapolate. You didn't have to extend and say, well, if he'd gone a little bit longer, he would have got to all these things. He met all the qualifications, but some voters, either by process or by personal opinion, say, okay, what is a first ballot Hall of Famer? What's a second ballot? And they view it. Now, I think once you're in, I don't feel like we talk about that. It doesn't go away. But I think there's an element of that's a special recognition, first ballot Hall of Famer. And if there's any little, small dent in your resume, we're going to go after it. Whether it's you only played 8 years, whether it's you didn't win a Super Bowl, whether it's you were mean to everybody, and you're a little grouchy except when you want to talk about left-footed punters and long snappers, like in the case of Bill Belichick. That being said, you look at it and go, he's had at least, in my opinion, 3 separate Hall of Fame careers.
Belichick.
Post-Deflategate, pre-Deflategate, or a Spygate, and as a assistant. He won multiple Super Bowls as a defensive assistant with the Giants. Yeah. He was legendary, a little bit like the way I would look at like a Steve Spagnuolo, where he's been an outstanding defensive coordinator on Super Bowl teams, and he's done it over and over again. That was Belichick before he was even a head coach.
Yeah, except to Steve Spagnuolo that then turned into Andy Reid, only better.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like 3 separate Hall of Fame-like careers, a little bit the same way we sometimes talk about Tom Brady, right? You've got, basically, they've taken 21 years of Tom Brady, broken it into 3 7-year segments, and he's a Hall of Famer in all 3, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the frustration with a guy like Bill, and it's very easy to push to, well, he's a little curmudgeon-y in the press conferences. We've got Spygate, we've got Deflategate. There's all these,
knocks.
There are
when
these
you're
little
looking
knocks,
for the slightest millimeter of a difference, those are I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think if he had sat in press conferences and smiled more, I think he'd be in.
Yeah,
I think he'd be in.
Yeah.
I think people were okay passing on. I do agree with you, Darin. Like you and I have talked about this process extensively because I'm a nerd for this sort of thing. I get it and believe that there were some people that didn't vote for him thinking everybody else was going to vote for him. I totally get that. But we also dealt with this last year with Luke, and I feel like all the voters realized that, hey, we've got to be very careful about assuming anything because the process is so tricky. Just at some point I'm going to push back on you. There's no reason for us to go down the path of, well, we shouldn't put in the most deserving candidate because we think someone else will vote for him.
Correct.
The math is the math, and it gets very tricky. To your point, if there's 5 finalists,
Do you think
they're
best
highly regarded.
Well, and here's the way I've always gone about this.
By the way, you did 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, I timed
and
you.
I ain't finished yet. Trust me. We could
and I
go all
stopped it
day.
when JJ started talking.
One of the things I've always tried to approach this as, I'm going to vote for the very best people on the ballot in front of me at the time it's in front of me. I'm not going to try to gerrymander the results. I'm not going to try to say, well, if I take one from over here, I can put it over here, and then maybe this will balance out. I'm not smart enough to do all that math. All I can do is look at the list and pick the 5 best. All I can do is look at that list of three seniors, contributor and coach, and say, these are the 3 I believe are the most deserving at this point. And again, this is all right here. As soon as the hall clears me to do it, I'm happy to share my work. I know others have. I care about rules, and I'm going to follow them. So that being said, as it pertains to our guy, and tune in next Thursday night around 10 o'clock Eastern is when the Hall of Fame results will be announced. Hopefully, we'll see our boy up there on stage. I think Luke is incredibly deserving. When I began talking about Luke in this year's meeting, and I don't mind sharing this, I will tell anyone, I said our job as a committee is to pick the very best players in this year's class. If we know we don't get 5, then we better pick the best 3. And if you're looking for one of the best 3, he lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. And here's why. And I've said this over and over. Cassidy's probably tired of hearing this. JJ certainly is. Luke Kuechly was an all-pro player 7 times in an 8-year career. The only 2 players in the history of football who were ever all-pro at a higher percentage of their career were Jim Brown and Barry Sanders.
Both Hall of Famers.
The 2 guys Luke is immediately ahead of on that list are Reggie White and Anthony Munoz.
Wow.
If you're running in a club with Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, Reggie White, and Anthony Munoz, guess what? You're a Hall of Famer. Yeah, Luke was the best player at his position for the entire time he played, and the only reason he didn't play longer was because of injuries. It's nothing he could control. It wasn't because he was a bad teammate. It wasn't because teams wanted to get rid of him. It was because he physically could not. And I think as a committee, we had already broken through the barrier when it's guys like Terrell Davis, when it's guys like Tony Baselli, those great shining stars of players who were unfortunately not able to play as long as some people would have wanted. I think Luke's in that category, but I think Luke's even beyond that because you're talking about a defensive player of the year. And somebody, I believe it was Peanut Tillman, asked me one time last year when we were doing 2015 stuff, he was like, with Luke, it's almost hard to believe he wasn't player of the year more often. It's because he was playing at the same time as J.J. Watt.
Yeah.
And J.J. Watt's out there in Houston getting 20 sacks a year, and pass rushers win those awards. Look at who's up for Defensive Player of the Year this year. I mean, it's all pass rushers. So I just think our guy's beyond deserving. I'm hoping for the best. But again, as we talked about.
Did you vote for him?
It's right here.
You want to show that work?
I'll tell anybody who wanted to ask. No, I mean.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say you voted for him.
Took a wild guess there.
Yeah. I'll say it for you. I'm just asking.
And that's fine. I mean, I will say I voted for Luke Kuechly because I believe Luke Kuechly was the best player on this ballot. And I don't think it's particularly close. And that's nothing against any of the other players. I mean, Drew Brees was a fantastic player, but there were other quarterbacks who were better than Drew Brees at the time Drew Brees was playing. Larry Fitzgerald was an amazing wide receiver who's second behind Jerry Rice on all the list of things we count. That makes you a Hall of Famer. But there were times when other receivers were the receiver in the game. Luke Kuechly was the linebacker in the game the whole time Luke Kuechly played.
Is it crazy to say that, using the years, their amount of time played is I don't think that should be a knock because, I mean, if you're like you said, if you look at the percentages of it, and JJ, it's a well-known fact here at Happy Half Hour that I don't do math. But
live math is hard, but you saw me do it. We're good.
Yeah, and I was confounded the entire time.
Oh yeah, I was tracking.
But 7 All Pros in 8 years to me is a little more impressive than maybe 10 and 15. Yeah. 10 All Pros in 15 years. Does that make sense?
I mentioned it before. I think sometimes we talked about with Sterling Sharp, right? Mm-hmm. You said Tony Baselli, Terrell Davis. In some cases, careers get cut short, and as a Hall of Fame voter, I'm sure you would be tasked with sort of extrapolating. Mm-hmm. Had he had 3 more years, had he had 5 more years, what would those numbers look like? Mm-hmm. because through 7 years, it's consistent with other guys that became Hall of Famers. With Luke, it's a little bit different. Luke already was a Hall of Famer that didn't play years 9, 10, and 11. With some of those other guys, you could have said they probably don't meet the full qualifications, but given 3 more years, they would have.
Right.
And so that becomes a little bit of a harder extrapolation. That's why maybe a guy like Terrell Davis or Sterling Sharp is on the list for more years as you're sort of working those things out. But,
no doubt.
But Luke was one of one. The cool part is the guy who was number 2 on that list for basically the entire time, Bobby Wagner, he's still playing. We had a lot of battles with Bobby in Seattle. He'll be a Hall of Famer when he gets in because those guys were at the top of their class. So it was really cool. Like that was sort of a period of time. Not only was Luke one of the very best, if not the best player on defense in the whole league, but there was other guys that are going to be Hall of Famers that he was playing with at the same time, and he was better than those guys. That's what's really cool.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really cool about Luke Kuechly is he's remained the same guy through this whole thing. I have told this story before, and I love it the most. Last year, when he was first-year eligible, I just tell him, as the person who sits in that room, I'm like, if you've got any questions about the process, please ask me. I'll try to clear up as much as I can about the way this thing happens. And Luke looked at me very earnestly and very sincerely, and he said, the only thing I really care about. And usually at this point, a lot of guys will go into the, I'm better than that guy. I'm better than this guy. How could I be? And Luke looked at me straight in the eye, and he said, if I get voted in, will we find out in time enough that I can get my mom to New Orleans?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's adorable.
So Mom Kuechly is going to be delighted whenever his time comes because her son loves her, and he is a dutiful son and just a good guy, as everybody around here knows. So we're all
dutiful.
hoping.
I thought you said beautiful, which
I did
was
too.
also
It
very
took me
nice.
a second. I had to think about the context.
I
of it,
thought
and
Darin was
like,
calling Luke beautiful, which he's a very handsome
empirically
man.
speaking, he is a very
But
handsome man.
he's
It's
also
part of the
dutiful.
It's part of the reason I hate him. I mean, he's good looking, he's polite, he's great at football, he's great at doing radio.
Yeah.
If there's things Luke Kuechly's not good at, I don't want to
I called him for a little bit of help on my generator this past weekend because I figured
of course.
he's got kind of a country soul. I
Oh,
was like,
great. Home repair. Add
Home
another
repair.
add
Yeah.
another
Well,
thing.
no, wait. Let's find out. Did he help you?
He pointed me in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Sounds close
then I
enough.
sent him pictures of me and my kids chopping wood, which I thought was really impressive. He's more of the hunter of the group. But yeah, I mean, I called him. I figured outdoorsy stuff.
Yeah.
He could
I
figure out
called
a
him.
generator.
Olsen's good at calling a guy. Olsen can get a
He's
repair
got a
guy to
guy.
his house. Luke's a little bit more like, I could probably figure that out.
Isn't
Yeah.
Olsen from New Jersey?
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense. Everybody's got a guy.
Well,
I know a guy.
Luke and Greg are both very well connected, but
Yep.
but Greg leans on those connections a little bit. Luke's a little bit more. I'll fix it first,
Yeah.
then we'll see.
Greg
If all
knows.
else fails, I can find the directions on
Oh, yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. Greg
Greg's
knows
got a guy for everything. He's in good shape.
Greg knows the guy. Luke is the guy.
That's right.
We're
There you
hoping
go.
for the best. All right. Here's what I can tell you. Tune in Thursday night around 10 o'clock Eastern, I think, is about the time the Hall of Fame
I think the show
announcement's
starts
gonna
at
be in
8.
it. Show start? Yeah, it's about halfway through. So about 10 Eastern is what I've been told. The Hall of Fame announcement's going to be rolling in about the middle of the show, but tune in for the whole thing because there's all kind of other
At
stuff.
10:15 Eastern, you're going to get on Twitter and show everyone who you voted for, right?
I'm happy to tell everyone after the fact exactly, I am an open book, and as soon as the hall clears me to share that information, I'm happy to do so because what do I care about? I care about transparency.
When Darin dies, I'm taking all of his notebooks and turning it into like an autobiography of a crazy sports writer.
It's, there's a lot of good stuff in there, and if you can read it and decipher it, best of luck to you. So, anyway, a lot of cool stuff. Also in that show, Teteroa McMillan, is finalist for AP Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like his chances in that one, but nothing's guaranteed in this life, as we found out with Bill Belichick. All kind of other stuff going on next week. So keep it locked on Panthers.com. We got all kind of good stuff coming your way. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Stay tuned all week because there's all kind of stuff coming your way, including a couple secrets that I got to talk to this man about after the show. We'll reveal later on. So tune in to
I love secrets.
What a
Panthers.com.
tease.
Tune into the
That's
YouTube
good.
channel, and we'll see you at some point after the Super Bowl on the Happy Half Hour.